Right up front. No care.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here with you all today. One-day meeting, Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission, March 25th, 2022. And happy to be here at Buffalo Ridge. It's one of my very favorite refuges that we have, and it's an incredible place. So it's good to be here with you all. This time, I would like to ask Commissioner Wright to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Precious and created. We have your word and we have the good news of Jesus, and even without those, we would know of you and your character because of this creation. It's evident. Thank you for all who are present, who care so much, the staff, all the stakeholders and public in our great state, and this commission, these commission members. Guide us today with our thoughts and give us wisdom and discernment. Help us make decisions that would be great for this state, but more than that, we will find you. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. All right, want to welcome everyone here today again, and also welcome our guests and visitors. After you're 50, you have to have glasses, so I'll have to keep these on the whole time. Where's the list? Where's our? Here they are. All right, visitors today, we have Clarence and Laura Dye from Tennessee Fur Harbor Association. Thank y'all for being here. Will Pruitt, Tennessee Fur Harvester Association. There you are. Hey, Will. Taylor Martin. Taylor here. And J.W. Worthen, Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Thank y'all for being here today. Is that all the guests we have? All right. Got too much stuff on my desk here. I will, at this time, like to ask Mary to call the roll, please.
Jimmy Granberry,
Here.
Tommy Woods,
Here.
Monty Blue,
Here.
Stan Butt,
Here.
Wally Childress,
Here.
Bill Cox,
Here.
Chris Devaney,
Here.
Jim Ripley, Steve Jones, Brian McLaren,
Here.
Kent Woods,
Here.
Hank Wright,
Here.
Angie Box.
Here.
Madam Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mary. Commissioners, you all should have received a copy of last month's minutes. Hope you have had time to review those. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion. Commissioner Blue. Second. Jimmy Granberry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Are there any announcements today from commissioners or staff? Executive Director, do you have any announcements?
Well, just typically, Madam Chairman, is they asked to give me an update on what I've been involved with since the last meeting, maybe some things to expect coming up in future meetings or any other announcements. And I was able to attend the National Wild Turkey Federation banquet back when it was held in Nashville. I was also able to attend the Future Farmers, FFA, Future Farmers America 41st Annual Governor's Breakfast. And I gave a presentation to some of the students for the FFA on a Friday afternoon out at Percy Priest with the help of the area manager there, Mark Vance. Attended the Southeast Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies Directors Spring Meeting. I did it virtually because I had a cold and I couldn't attend in person, but I also went to the North American Wildlife Conference last week, attended that in person, and attended the Tennessee Chapter of the American Fisheries Society because I'm still a fish guy in heart. Just a real quick statement about today, the presentation. We don't have any actions to be taken by the commission, and this is a time when we get to we kind of brag on the things that we do as an agency. not everything, but some of the things. So I'm looking forward to all the presentations we have from our folks. This is some good stuff that we do. And then just a note about the next meeting in April will be the preview for the hunting recommendations. So with that, Madam Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Commissioner Cox.
Yeah, right quick. And I'm sure everybody else will do the same thing, and I'm sure you'd bring it up. But I really had a good time yesterday, and I'd like to thank everybody, all the agency guys that were with us yesterday for shoot and all. It was a really great day. Thank you.
I second that.
Any other announcements? Yes, thank you for yesterday. It was incredible. And this place is my very favorite of all in Tennessee. It is very unique, and I love when we be able to meet and attend here. It's incredible. I'd like to make a quick announcement and thank our immediate existing current chairman, previous chairman, Jim Ripley. And he is, Jim, if you're listening, he's not here today, but I'd like to thank him for his leadership, exceptional gift he has in public speaking and leadership. And I just want to thank him for all he's done. He also can interject some great humor in the middle of being a great leader and great public speaker. So, Jim, thank you for your leadership. All right. Glasses again. All right. We're going to start off with Tennessee State NASP tournament announcement. Don King. Thank you, sir.
You bet. My main goal is to extend an invitation for all the commission members and any of our staff too that aren't involved in working the state shoot to be able to come and attend next Thursday and Friday at the Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro. It'll be our I believe this will be the 18th year, and they expect probably between about 1,500 students will be shooting in the state tournament. So I'd like to take this opportunity to just kind of extend my presentation just a little bit with a few slides to show you a little bit about the program if you're not as familiar with it as you might like to be. We'll start off with a little video that explains a lot about it, and you'll see Don Crawford, who runs this program statewide with a lot of help from across the state. But we'll take a look at this video and then be right back with a couple more things.
Today we're at the Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro. This is our 12th annual Tennessee State National Archery in the School Program tournament. This year we've got almost 400 schools across the state in the program. And this year we have 131 teams participating. We'll have somewhere around 2,000 kids. Mainly it's made for 4th through 12th grade. It's made to be taught in school during school hours. So that way every kid will get a chance to at least try it. That's what we're trying to do. But then afterwards, a lot of the teachers, once they're teaching it during school hours, a lot of them will start an archery club afterwards. Most of our top shooters will shoot somewhere around 290, 293. Probably the average for most of them that's been in the program for a couple of years, they're shooting in the 260s, 270s pretty regularly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see what they can do with just, like you said, just the plain shooting instinctive.
This first 5 arrows is practice only. Get both.
This is an IBO 3D range, and it's another opportunity for the kids to be involved in archery.
This is 3D. It's connected with Nasp. They've been doing it right now for about 3 years, and it's called the Nasp IBO, which is the International Bowhunter Organization. But it's a 3D shoot where they're shooting at the animals.
It also encourages them to get outside with archery and to continue beyond just the gym or just the arena, to go out and try bow hunting. Something they can do with their family as well. So it's exciting, it's fun.
Follow the rules, score like you're supposed to, and be fair and consistent.
The way they can really get involved in this program, they can contact either me or Matt, Claire, either one, and they can get their, you can get a teacher that really, involved and wants to get trained. Very simple to teach. It's not very difficult at all. The startup kit to get a kit to get it started is about $3,000. We have some grant money available to the schools. We got about $1,500 help them get started. So we just got to get a teacher that's would like to do it, get interested in it, come to one of our trainings that we put on. The training's free. Go back to their school, get their equipment, and they can start the program.
They get everything out of it. They learn all life lessons, fairness, acceptance, inclusion of everybody, because anybody can shoot archery. Learn to be a team. They learn how to be themselves, and they learn confidence in themselves.
It's a level playing field. I mean, but there's three different. We've got an elementary division, we have a middle division, and we have a high school division. But they're competing as a team and also as individuals as well. Yeah, and everybody's shooting the same bow, everybody's shooting the same arrow, everybody's using the same equipment. They're going to shoot 30 arrows, 15 arrows from 10 meters, and they're going to shoot 15 arrows from 15 meters. And then the total score that you could get, the best you get would be a 300. We'll tally it up. We'll pick the best top 3 teams in each division, and then we'll also give the top 5 individuals, male and female, in each division.
And Don does a great job of administering the program across the state. And this is it's a huge lift for the state shoot. As you can imagine, like a couple of thousand archers coming, plus their moms and dads, their aunts and uncles, grandparents, siblings that attend. The stands there were a little quiet. I don't know when Barry shot that particular one. This was from 2018. But early in the day, there might not have been as many folks there. But if you do attend, you'll be amazed at how what a well-oiled machine it is, and it all happens with some whistle commands. It's pretty amazing program. And just a few slides to give you a little background information. We started it in 2004. Initially, it was started up in Kentucky, and as Don mentioned, we do offer $1,000 grants to schools to get started, and a Nasp grant kicks in an extra $500. So basically, it cuts the cost in about half of the $3,000 to get started. But that's the kit of bows that they shoot, the Genesis bows, and it's as you can see here, there's just some facts and figures. It grows about 1,000 students or schools per year. It really promotes student success and academic emphasis. It really, the teachers and administrators notice a difference when it's archery day. The attendance is up and attitudes change. As it shows here, 58% of students feel more connected to their school. Not every kid is built to play football or basketball or team sports in the traditional sense. So this really levels the playing field for a lot of participation. And the way it works is that the instructors get trained. Typically, a lot of PE teachers do this. Sometimes science teachers do this, but it's primarily in physical education class when these are held. But instructors can attend a 1-day 8-hour physical class, or they can attend a 4-hour hybrid class after they've done the online course. So everything is kind of shifting more toward online these days. And as I mentioned before, it really opens up the competition to folks that traditionally couldn't compete on the field. It really levels the playing field. So doesn't discriminate against popularity, athletic skill, gender size, or academic ability. A different kind of team sport. And this is the typical setup in a gym or wherever they choose to operate it. But you can see the backdrop there on the behind the targets. They get 5 targets, and the bow rack and the bows and the stands for the arrows, and you know, it's a complete deal. And it's international style target archery. And as Don mentioned, grades 4 through 12. And it tangentially kind of, you know, relates to other classes as well, you know, math, physics, and other disciplines. As I mentioned before, the attendance tends to be better on archery days. Self-confidence, focus, concentration, behavior, and attendance all seem to improve. As you can see here, there's a team that has taken home some gold at one of the state shoots. And this year, as bonus, all the participants in the state shoot will receive a card that will allow them to go online to gooutdoorstennessee.com and get a free license for the year. So we're working with our foundation to make that happen this year. So it'll be a great benefit to them. It'll hopefully get them, if they haven't ever had a license before, it'll be a great introduction for that, and be an added benefit. And then we'll also have their names and be able to keep in touch with them over time. And up front, you guys are invited. We really appreciate your support, and I encourage you to come watch goings on. It's amazing to stand in that Coliseum and to see that extent of students shooting from one end to the other. And as a matter of fact, there are so many that they have to extend it to the auditorium that's just outside the main auditorium there at Miller to accommodate everybody. And that's all I have. But anyway, I'd like to invite you. Thanks so much. All right.
Thank you, Donkey. Are there any questions? So, if there's a school, I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's all right.
If there's a school now would like to participate in the program that is not existing, they just,
I am glad you brought that up. I meant to mention that if you know of any local school board or school system that is not involved with Nasp at the moment, you can contact me or contact Don Crawford directly. We'll connect you with who you need to talk to and get some training going. And Don is really good at going out and presenting this to school board meetings and to administration to get it within the schools. You know, early on, it was kind of a little bit strange. You know, you go in and have a meeting with the principal and say, hey, we'd like to bring bows and arrows into the gym. It takes a little explanation to let them know what that looks like, how safe it is. And so yeah, we would love to extend the program into new schools that you may know of that aren't involved.
okay, great. Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
We actually had archery at my high schools back in 400 years ago when I was in high school. We had it. I enjoy that though. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that presentation. All righty. Next, we have a presentation, Manager Don Hosse, Buffalo Ridge overview. Thank you, sir.
First off, would like to thank everybody for the opportunity. I'm always glad to see everybody come out to Buffalo and enjoy their time. Also for y'all that did take part of yesterday, we're always looking for ways to improve Buffalo. We're pretty proud of it, but I always think there's way for improvement. If y'all have any constructive criticism, we'd certainly like to hear it. I think we can always make it bigger and better. Also, one thing I can't say enough is the staff. not only in-house, you know, Lance and Freddie and James and the technicians and the people and Lacey, but also the people across the board that not even in the communication division that want to come out. They believe in Buffalo, to come from all parts of the states to help out with our mission. And then also our volunteers. It's unbelievable, the following that we've got, the people that believe in it, and there's absolutely no way with the manpower we've got that we could pull it off without their support. So can't thank them enough. And like I said, hope y'all enjoyed yourself yesterday and today. And any words of wisdom, we'd certainly like to hear them. But at this time, like I said, welcome to Buffalo. I know we got some newer commissioners that may have not kind of known the history of it. So I think it's a pretty incredible ride that we've been on at Buffalo for the past 20 plus years. So at first, when I was putting my slide presentation together, you know, I had this idea and this slide and this one. And then Don King back in 18 put together a really, really good video with some footage that we had. And it encompasses kind of the history, how we got to where we're at now. So at this time, if I can figure it out. Have any idea how the remote works? Sorry, it's not scrolling. Still not doing anything. Yeah, if you could just, I'll cue you. If you could bring up the video, that would be great. Yeah.
Buffalo Ridge Refuge is operated by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. It's a unique outreach and education facility totaling over 1,800 acres, incorporating a variety of habitats, including a few miles of the Buffalo River. It's unlike any other agency-owned property, dedicated to creating opportunities to introduce people to the outdoors. For more than 18 years, while still privately owned by Tom and Wendy Beasley, thousands of young hunters, outdoor women, and wounded soldiers have been able to experience life-changing hunts, fulfilling the vision of its gracious owners. In 2016, due to a very generous donation from the Beasley family, along with wildlife restoration funds, the property was acquired by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to continue and expand upon the original. Mr. Beasley also helped secure funding from the governor's office, along with matching Pittman-Robertson funds, to make improvements to the infrastructure and greatly expand the refuge's outreach potential. With this funding, existing structures, which included a log home and a very large barn, have been updated. The barn now houses an office, a bunkhouse with lodging for 25, and a hunter education classroom that can accommodate well over 100 students. A commercial kitchen is also planned. Private individuals have donated a wide variety of building materials, and volunteers have given hundreds of hours to help finish this facility. Funding has also been used to help purchase equipment to help manage the property to its fullest potential. Biologists and foresters are working on a master plan to manage a variety of habitats, with improved hunter success as one of the main goals. At this point, there are over 10 miles of roads, 40 plus ladder stands, and 3 wheelchair accessible shooting houses, along with a tremendous deer herd. Through the agency's outreach efforts, we have helped participants harvest well over 100 deer in a single season. We offer young sportsman deer hunts for youth who have completed hunter education but have never harvested a deer before. Through the Becoming an Outdoors Woman program, we offer a Beyond BOW muzzleloader workshop that has become so popular that we now give 2 weeks priority to first-time participants. We also offer a Wounded Soldiers Deer Hunt to give back to those individuals who have done so much for us by serving their country.
When we get together, we're just normal people having fun, and it just keeps us going.
The improvements have allowed for the expansion of hunter ed classes, Wounded Soldiers dove hunts, youth squirrel hunts, trapper training workshops, Wounded Soldiers bass tournaments.
I don't think there's any better way to spend your time. I feel like we're changing some lives. We're pulling people back.
All right, there's the big one.
Fish, this is your final breakfast.
All right, let's go.
Not only, are we doing something for the soldiers, but we're bringing their wives and kids, and kids fishing rodeo, and a lot of them got trophies. They all got fishing rods.
Let's see kisses.
But I can't say enough. It's an honor to be a part of something like this event.
Buffalo River cleanups, and more.
To bring the younger generation, get them outside, let them experience nature. Even pull over a shoal, pick up a little trash, and let the kids throw rocks in the water and find crawfish.
The second phase of Buffalo Ridge Refuge includes the construction of a variety of shooting ranges, a dedicated hunter education facility, and additional lodging.
I truly think there's no other property in the state that really compares. There's so many opportunities out there at Buffalo Ridge Refuge to get people involved in the outdoors and the outdoor experience. We're looking at utilizing new techniques in wildlife management, from forestry management to wetland management to upland habitat management. We're currently working hand in hand with the University of Tennessee and Tennessee Tech and UT Martin, talking about the latest science that's out there on a multitude of species and their habitats, and bringing that data and information to Buffalo Ridge and putting it on the ground, which in turn we hope will provide each hunter that comes to Buffalo Ridge the best opportunity to succeed, hook them on hunting and fishing, and maybe they'll get somebody else involved too.
To everyone that has ever done an event like this or helped out an event like this, volunteered, or even the veterans that decide to say, you know what, that was amazing, I'd like to pay it forward, because that's where I'm at. Someone did it for me and helped me out of probably one of the worst periods of my life. And if I can do that to just one more person, I think that I have a purpose.
Well, like I said, I think that can do a lot better job kind of telling you about Buffalo and how we've gotten here. Also can't say enough about Tom Beasley. Pretty amazing individual. But if we can go to the next slide. And then now where we've gone, the video, of course, needed some updating, but it tells a lot about what we've got. But of course, one of the things, if you would have told me 3 years ago that we could have pulled off a mile here, I would have thought you were crazy. My hat's off to Lance, and unfortunately Stan, the operator, passed away. A great individual, very much missed, but considering he built it in about a month's time, it's a pretty incredible resource that we have here as an agency. As we move further, I think we're going to need some guidance to see how we want to proceed with the mile range, but it is definitely just one more feather in Buffalo's hat. We go to the next one. But also something too I'm excited about. Started off my career with the agency and law enforcement, and I got to spend my 20 plus weeks at the Law Enforcement Academy in Donaldson learning about a lot of stuff that didn't have anything to do with what my future career was. So when Darren Ryder and started talking about wanting to do stuff here, of course it is agency property, I think it's been wonderful. All the Grand Divisions have utilized this property, wildlife, fisheries, not only law enforcement. So I'm 110% behind having that aspect of Buffalo too. I think it's just yet another feather in the agency's cap, at Buffalo's cap, having law enforcement out here where they can actually do the training that our officers need before they head to the field. I think it's a great partnership, and I think it's a whole lot better for our law enforcement agency individuals. Other things that we had since that video was shot, of course, the log cabin. It was unbelievable how many hundreds and hundreds of hours of volunteers took it to the place that it is now. We had granite donated. We had, cabinets donated, the whole 9 yards to overhaul it. The house on stilts now when you come across the bridge. We're excited about that project. That's going to probably have additional sleeping for 10 people. We had the sharecroppers contract went up this year, so we decided to take the 50-acre field here in our front yard out of the equation, and we're going to start planting sunflowers there for our dove hunts that are coming up. And while we were looking at it, it's a natural place to do an archery range, and the evolution, more education that we can do. We're also looking at doing experimental food plots, and we work a lot. Not only we're all about it. Another thing too, working with the foundation, especially Lacey was huge on this. The Maddox Foundation, they through the Maddox Foundation ended up buying over 30 of the redneck blinds. So now instead of the hunter safety systems and trying to get people in tree stands, and you're only limited on these hunts that we proclamate, so we're pretty much dedicated to do them. And so now at least a first time hunter, when they come out here, they can be in a someplace where they can get out of the elements in case it's raining a little bit, where it's a little more pleasurable for their hunt. So close to $100,000 worth of redneck blinds we got to the Maddox Foundation. And one thing too I'm excited about, through the last hero hunt, had the pleasure of meeting the hero hunt team. Our Aquatics officer was shot in the line of duty about 20 years ago and was paralyzed basically from her arms down, below her arms down. So we learned a lot from her, and we've had some wheelchair accessible blinds already, but now we're doing some more, I think even better, because she had to have a personal helper and to have 3 people in the blinds. But we're doing 2 more moment of freement blinds, which we can really accommodate on that. So that's also another program that Shane Hall dearly missed, but I'd like to see that getting back going in the right direction. So, but a lot going on. There's always different projects and different things that people want to go. If we can go to the next slide, please. Our R3, that's what Mr. Beasley had the place until 16. It's unbelievable the opportunities that he allowed us to do as an agency. But basically, we did the youth mentor type hunts. We had the ladies muzzleloader hunt with his involvement. He was a West Point graduate. He actually 20 plus years ago got us involved with Fort Campbell, where we started doing stuff for the soldiers up there. And so we did that. But once we got the reins to the place, then we really, every year, it's amazing, how much more R3 people are coming out of the woodwork wanting to do this and wanting to do that. And we're expanding on all these programs every year. So I'd say the list is going to keep going. In addition to that, one of the things that, like I said, it is agency property. And I'm really proud that all the Grand Divisions are utilizing Buffalo. So not only are we doing it for communication and outreach, and there's a lot of things, when you want to go meet as your managers for your division to go somewhere, but you want to have a place like this where you can talk business, but then also you can go wet a line or go shoot and, get to know each other and spend some quality time outside of the office, I think, and I'm glad that everybody has taken advantage of it between, the log cabin, the house on stilts, the tiny houses law enforcement has, we can accommodate quite a few people, probably 50 plus between bunkhouses if people wanted to lay out. And it's, it's a great resource. And I encourage the agency to utilize it more, because that's why we're doing it, because we want it to be used. Another exciting thing, Clint Borum, we did about 60 acres. We did some little clear cuts. It's a great place, but we just didn't have a thicket. So we had Jordan come in with the forestry and gave us some recommendations about, we needed to make some more bedding areas, some more escape cover, some more habitat. And so we put in a bunch of little logging clear cuts here and there. We also put a savanna in, which I'm pretty excited about that. But when we did, we had to have access to the back there was an easement through our property, and there was 7 Hawks, which is an operation out of, I think, Georgia, that owned that property. And Clint Boren made the connection with these people at the time, and they were interested after getting the permission to use their easement. And so he ended up at discounted rate and that kind of deal. So now it looks like almost double the size of Buffalo, nearly hitting. A lot of it, as you know, has been kind of cut over somewhat. It's rough, but you know, they're not, as they say, making any more of it. So we're really excited to have it. A lot of it is downrange from where the mile is, but then also south of it. There's been conversations and discussions, and I'm sure we're still going to have to talk about, you know, what we'd like to do. Some of the things that we've even talked about, if we could kind of mimic. We have good deer out here by the river bottoms. We don't QDMA out here. We have an unbelievable amount of first timers that come out here. For instance, on our juvenile hunt, we have about 80% success. So we want people to come out here, whatever trips their trigger, have at it. But also, you know, every year we're killing 140, 150 class deer on this place, and there's deer bigger than that. So it's not going to be a President's Island, but I think also you could cater. It's going to have to be a small quota hunt if we do decide to go public with it. But we could possibly do, you know, a 3-day bow hunt, a 3-day muzzleloader hunt, 3-day gun hunt, and things such as that. But we're kind of, you know, just now getting the property, and we're excited about it, but still have a few more discussions to, you know, figure out what direction. Of course, another thing, it's been about 3.5 years when we proposed this, but we're really excited about the education center and the ranges. That's not only do we have the mile, I'm glad you all got to take part of the sporting clays, but also the pistol pit's been complete. Now they're working on a 100-yard range. There's going to be, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide too. But kind of, and this has been tweaked over the years, you know, but, you know, pretty much we're going to have all the shooting disciplines that you could ever ask for, you know, a little outside of an hour or less from Nashville. We got, you know, adequate hotels. We've got, you know, easy to find. It's just a shooter's dream between, we're trying to encompass everything we possibly can with 5-stand, the archery ranges, the whole gamut. So it's getting bigger and better. It's, you know, kind of been a long road to hoe and to get to where we're at. And hopefully the last conversation yesterday with engineering, the building is still not past the fire marshal's phase, but there's about 95% complete on what we need to do. So they're hoping pretty soon that it's going to go out for bid, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. But they've just about got it to grade for the building. So the next phase is, you know, send it out to bid, see monetary wise where we're at, and then hopefully we'll be breaking ground. So that's kind of, I know I've thrown a lot at you. It's in a nutshell, but we've got a lot going on. We're very proud of this place. And if y'all have any questions, certainly let me know.
Thank you, Donald. That was wonderful.
Thank
It gets
you for the opportunity.
so exciting to see that.
No, we're sorry to be a part of it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Do we have any questions? Oh,
Well,
Commissioner Blue?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I'm one of the, excuse me, new commissioners. First time I've been here. I've only been on about 10 months or so, and absolutely unbelievable facility and everything that you all have done with this, from the kitchen to the shooting facility to the hunts that you all do, the outreach, and just unbelievable. This is a class act, top notch. I think should be on display for every state in the southern part of the United States to show how their wildlife agency can really do something positive. And, you know, just hats off to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Chairman.
Commissioner Cox and then, but
Don, you've got money budgeted, I suppose, to do the buildings and all now.
Correct.
Do you have any idea how much more you're going to have based on the?
Unfortunately, when I did this pitch, it was 3.5 years ago. And as you know, the world has changed drastically. Everything has gone exponentially. It hasn't gone out for bid. So I have no idea. I do know that there's a tremendous amount of money that we have for ranges and things such as that. And the price tag may scare us, but on the flip side, if we're not investing in ourselves and we have the money, to utilize it. But I honestly, I can't answer that question at this point.
I have a question real quick.
Yes,
What,
ma'am.
as far as that, putting out for bids, what are we looking at if it goes well? A year, 3 years? Or completion, just, I know, it's
And
hard
like
to
I
know.
said, and it was kind of comical too, when I was putting this presentation together, I was looking at slides, and they had the projected date back February of 21, we were going to be in the building and this and that. And, and I get it, we've had rain and we're trying to save money doing the dirt work. And for 5 people to move that much dirt, they've made a lot of progress. And in addition to COVID, and there's a million different things going on. But hopefully, like it was encouraging yesterday, I talked to Jay and them about that. They're fixing to go out to bid, and it looks like the place is going to be to grade, pretty close to it right now. So they can still work on berm work. And if we have the bid and we're willing to proceed with it, then we can start working on the building, and they can continue to working on the ranges. So that won't conflict. So that was good news. So we don't have to wait for the berms and everything to be done.
Okay.
Which that's probably going to be about November, they say, before most of the dirt work, if weather permitting.
Do we have an idea on staffing that as far as what we're looking at?
I think that's somewhat up for, we've talked about different things and managers and technicians. And so hopefully we'll figure that out when we get there.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Butt?
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of the staff for their commitment and their involvement. Particularly, I'd like to recognize Lacey and the work that she's put in and the influence that she has on the women's program. And I have direct connections with that. My sister-in-law has been a big part of the women's program for many years. And so I know that she's grown up from a teenager to heavily involved in the success of that program. And so I do appreciate that. And just wanted to put that on record to let you know, Lacey, we do thank you. I also have a question. I noticed whether that's an architect or rendering or a proposal for the buildings, but it looked pretty contemporary. I'd like to see it a little more rustic to coincide with the efforts down here, if that's possible or whatever. So that's just a side statement.
Yeah, and hopefully, and that's one thing that we definitely talk to the architects, rock, wood, stuff and that's what, we like so much about. You pull up to Buffalo and you see a barn from the 50s and you come inside and it's got all the modern amenities that you need. So yes, I agree with you also that it needs to flow with the look. Anything else?
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for your time.
And thank you so much. The staff here has been incredible. Lance, Lacey, all of y'all have done a great job. We appreciate y'all. All right. Next, we have budget. Mr. Ken Tarkington. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's kind of hard act to follow. But this will be spine tingling too. I'm sure you'll agree. I'm reporting through the month of January 22. At the top of the page, if you're following, or on screen on the slide on the screen, the first the first fund is the boating fund, and through January, we're approximately $350,000 above the estimated registration income, and we're approximately 24% of the annual allotment on the expense. The next slide, the wildlife fund, we're just shy of $1 million above what we had projected for income, and is approximately 35% of the allotment, expense allotment for the year. The next slide on the web in that, and then the funds and the reserve balances are identified there, and the state investment pool is at 0.04%. If you recall, that was 0.02%. Not a whole lot, but it's basically twice what it was a couple of months ago. Any questions or comments?
Commissioner Cox, I know you have one.
Please comment.
I thought you just read it. Go ahead and ask.
What's that board name?
Well, while
Chris,
you're thinking, I'll ask one.
Could you give us just a little short update on where the legislation is for our investment money?
See, sure, Commissioner Cox, if you're talking about the bill that we're working on to kind of redo the way the monies associated with lifetime license sales is advancing, it passed the Senate floor unanimously 29-0 yesterday morning, and we will be in the full House Finance Committee next week. So things look very good for that passage. We're continuing discussions with both the Attorney General and the Treasurer about things that can go on to be ready when the legislation goes into effect. So we will likely be engaging in actuarial to come up with kind of the mechanisms and amounts that an agreement between the TWRA and the trust that will be authorized if the legislation does in fact pass. So we are excited about that, moving forward as best we can.
Thank you.
Will you explain just a little bit more about the trust?
I can do my best, Stan. The goal of this trust, and there's still some details to work out on exactly how that's going to be set up, what the governing documents for the trust will be. But the trustees of the trust will include the Commissioner of Finance and Administration, the Executive Director of the Wildlife Agency, and will be chaired by the State Treasurer. So that's going to make up the Board of Trustees that oversees it. The purpose for the legislation is we need this money to be classified as being held for the benefit of the individual in order to get increased flexibility in how the money can be invested, such as the way that the consolidated retirement system money is. We're hopeful that this is going to result in a much larger rate of return on the $71 million or so that is associated with lifetime license sales, where now we're doing somewhat well from the standpoint of where we were years ago. The longer term bonds, there is a potential realized gain if we were to sell them today. But we believe that under this new system that the actual net earnings that are going to be transferred to the agency on an annual basis will be much higher.
And I think that's important for the public to understand that you've done your due diligence and that we're looking to address concerns going forward as far as the funds that have been set aside for that program, and we're trying to maximize the potential there. So, and the oversight that's gone into putting this trust together, I think everybody needs to understand how involved that's been, and I appreciate your explanation.
Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Granberry.
Chris, the 71 million, obviously we're at 0.04, even though that's double from where it was, it's still not really a lot of money. And you know, we could speculate on what the return would be right now if we were to put it in the higher yielding investments. But will there be any restrictions on where that money can be spent, or does it go back just into our operating budget?
So the interest earnings associated with the trust, and that's the mechanism that we still need the actuarial to help us determine exactly how it's going to work. But there will be no restrictions on the money. It would come in just as if it was an annual license purchase, and that's kind of the basis for how we'll pay ourselves. Is when somebody buys a lifetime license, they obviously get a discount over what an annual license would cost if they bought it every year. We're hoping that the interest that we're going to earn will be sufficient to pay ourselves that difference between what an annual license would cost someone if they had to purchase it each year.
While I've got your attention, can you give us you spoke about this bill will be at the House on Monday. It passed the Senate unanimously. Is there any other pending legislation? I know we had our consent hearing on our sunset hearing Monday night or something. Any other issues out there that you're aware of that we should be concerned with as the session comes to a close?
Commissioner Granberry, honestly, there's not. I mean, the legislation that you all and we have been tracking is all moving through the process. Some of it is finished and headed for the governor's desk. Some of it still has another hearing to be done. We're obviously watching the rural omnibus bill that will
codify all of the rules for every state agency. Going back to 2021, that is important to us. We're still tracking that. The Carroll County 1,000-acre lake bill has still got some work to do. It's got a couple more committees in the House. It is scheduled to be on the Senate floor on Monday. So everything that we have discussed to this point is moving on along in accordance with how we want it to and how we expected it to. So just trying to bring a few of those items to conclusion before the General Assembly hopefully wraps up in a few weeks and goes home.
Thanks, Chris. And I can speak for the whole commission. I think this past year, the last 3 months have been really enjoyable for me as a commissioner. And I think everybody else on the commission, how engaged we got on the Hill with our staff, with our partners, and really showed to not only to the legislature, but to the general public what we're all about, and not thinking that we're just running, rogue on the state landscape, but in everything we do. And I know Jennifer has updated these cards, and everybody's got one. It's just really, simple little statement measuring our impact, but it's impactful. And when we were at the Senate, I remember we handed them out, and we were ready to hand them out, but the House sunset was so fast we didn't even know what happened. We thought we missed the whole thing because it lasted about 5 seconds. But it just shows you how proud we should all be, not only as commissioners, but as our agency staff from top to bottom about what we do. And it's in this little card, but this is just a snapshot of what goes on in this agency. And I think, everybody's got them, and Jennifer and her team will update this every year, but it's pretty amazing what all we do. And we talk about Buffalo Ridge because we're here, but this is just one of hundreds of different programs and facilities and all the things they're working on. And not all of it's good. I mean, I know we're building this new CWD workstation in Jackson, and we'll see that next month, but all those things are so important to protect this resource moving forward, and working with Ken and the budget in this legislature. And, so we go from $100,000 to $3 million to the budget. If, those are the numbers, I'm just making that up, but how impactful that could be. It would allow us to build Buffalo Ridge if there's a cost overrun in the upcoming budget bids for the thing. So thank Chris. I had the pleasure of walking the halls with Chris for a couple of days, and I knew some people, he knew a lot more, but it was really rewarding for me. I've been in Nashville for 64 years, but I'd never really walked the halls of the legislature, and to see what goes on down there, and the respect that everybody has for us once they see who we are and that we're really real people and not some phantom commission that doesn't do anything. So it was really, thank you, Chris, and thank you to Bobby, Jason, and Andy came down a couple of times for the meetings. We were ready, we were prepared, and I think it's just, I was really proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
And thanks for the effort from all of the commissioners that really took time away from their families, time away from their jobs to be there in support of the agency. It really does make a big difference, and really appreciate all the effort that you all have shown to support me at the legislature this session. It's been great.
Great. Thank you so much for the update, Chris Richardson. Any more questions for Ken Tarkington? Thank you for your presentation, Ken. It was exciting. See? You did great. All right. I'd like to call on Captain Matt Majors, Honor Guard Coordinator for Boating Investigation with Boating and Law Enforcement. Mark, thank you, sir. Matt.
Fantastic. Thank y'all so much for having me. Again, Matt Majors with the Boating and Law Enforcement Division, and I'm by trade a boating investigator, but I want to talk to you today about something that's pretty near and dear to my heart, and that's our Honor Guard. Does the clicker work? So when I was designing this presentation, This was the most challenging slide I had. You know, it was a challenge for me because our purpose is, it's much bigger than just a mission statement or something we do or how we do it. It's more of a calling. It's really specialized training and extra work for our wildlife officers that are already doing so much. I can't tell you how proud I am of them, because this is just one extra thing, and this is not an easy thing. It takes a true servant's heart for no extra pay and just more responsibility. So our true purpose, it is to cast a professional light on what an honor it is to be a wildlife officer. Several of you have heard me say before that every morning when I put on this uniform, I'm just as excited as the first day I put it on. It means that much to me. And it's meant so much for years and years and generations of wildlife officers. So with that being said, we need to really make sure that we are the most professional officers we can be. And one of the ways we do that is through our honor guard. So we have a 22-member team, and it's made up by wildlife officers and wildlife managers throughout our state. We are primarily given, our biggest thing that we do is funeral services. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but we also get to do some fun stuff. And those are the ceremonial honors that we get to do. So how did we get to this honor guard? You know, it was born out of the untimely death, unfortunately, of one of our wildlife officers. And then a number of our officers throughout the state got together and said, we have to put something together where we can give the utmost respect to these officers when they do pass away, whether that's after years and years of service or if they're 140 years old. It doesn't matter, because they've given their whole life to this agency in this uniform. The least we can do is give them just a few minutes back. So the fun stuff, again, I told you we're designed for funerals, but our honor guard team really enjoys when they get out in the public and represent this uniform and what we do and how we do it. We go to a lot of different places. There are a few places we haven't been to, but I'm going to keep pestering them with emails until they let us come and present the colors at their place. But these are the great things that we get to do. And through the years, I've received emails and texts and phone calls saying, hey, I had no idea you guys and gals did that. So we really do, for a lot of ways, we put TWRA on the map as far as the uniform in front of many, many people that wouldn't think we would be at a Titans game or at the Nashville Predators. Whatever it may be, we're going to be there. And here's some of the places we've been to. We're still, again, scratching away at the surface. We're going to try to do more of these through time, but our officers really enjoy these. And these are the fun parts. The funerals are more challenging, and that's what I'll talk to you about next. So we've really got 3 tiers of service that we provide. The first one and most common one is our retired wildlife officers. It's very common for officers' families to want our honor guard to be there and participate in the funeral services for their loved one. As you might imagine, it's also the most challenging too. We're dealing with people at the end of their life, and their lost loved ones love this agency. So there's truly some beauty in this to be able to provide this service. Our second tier would be active officers, but they're not line of duty deaths. And what that means is they are either sick or injured off the clock. So we will provide them a higher level or a higher tier of service during their family's funeral services. And then, of course, we would give them the utmost honors that we could give them at time. I hope we never get to use that. I really do. So really what we do, you can see some of the things we do, but this is all about what the families want. Okay. We'll work very well with other branches of military service. Many of our officers have done military service. So we'll work with those different military branches. And sometimes we've done a unified honor guard event with these other branches of military service. So it's really tailored just to what the family wants. One of my most challenging tasks is reaching out to the family ahead of time and saying, hey, here's who we are. What do you need? It's kind of interesting in talking to these folks. Some of them didn't even know we were there, but there's others who've said, man, I can't wait till you called. This is the best part. We want you here. They lived and breathed this agency in this uniform. We want you there. So that says a lot about the team for sure. One of the things that we commonly do at all funerals is do casket watch. We will actually stand by the casket as the family welcomes friends and loved ones through. Some of the things you hear there, and I've got some other honor guard members in the room and they'll echo this, but as I've stood there motionless beside these caskets, I can't convey to you the true love that these officers' families have for this agency. They seemingly talk more about our agency and our uniform than they do the loved ones themselves. I've stood with my head bowed and listened to these stories, and they'll say, hey, just look at him. Would you look at him? He'd be so proud, or she'd be so proud. While that's a challenging place to stand, there is no other place I would rather stand is beside that casket for that family. It's just a tremendous experience. So I also tell this short story to all of our cadets. And I'll just be honest, I don't know everything, but occasionally I think I do. And I thought I knew how important of a job we did, but I didn't. And one person humbled me very much one day. To preface this, I'd had a long night the night before, very little sleep. I'd driven halfway across the state to fill in for another honor guard officer. I knew the officer that had passed away, and there were some challenges there. I was tired. I was dealing with some things at home that I was trying to get done. And so I was not in a good place mentally, but it was really hot in that church. I'm talking really hot. So we usually stay in a little room by ourselves, but I wanted to sneak outside to get some fresh air and just clear my head. Now, those of you that have worn the uniform, you'll know what I'm talking about. Even the commissioners, when somebody sees that patch, they come right to you and want to ask you a question. So I'm outside behind the building, off to the side where nobody will bother me. Guess what? There's this little fella, and he is 130 years old. Has to be 130. And he's like this tall, and he's got a cane. And he's got his eyes set right on me. And my mind is thinking, please don't walk over here and talk to me. And it took him 20 minutes to get to me. It really did. And the whole time, my mind is getting more and more frustrated. I just want to be alone. And so when he gets to me, he's right-handed. I can still see him walking with his cane. He switched hands with his cane, and he reached his hand out to shake my hand. I said, how you doing, sir? And he said these words to me. When it's my time, I want you boys to stand by me. I didn't even know he was a retired wildlife officer. At that point, I knew how important this honor guard was. It was it changed my life. And he didn't even know it. Sometimes we're humbled in the best ways. We really are. So one of the common requests we get is folding a flag for the family. This is probably one of the most physically and emotionally challenging things you'll ever do, but it's also the most rewarding. This is a picture of me presenting a flag to a family that I knew very near and dear, and I was very close to that family. And they asked me to present that flag. And although I've done them at a number of funerals, this one meant more because there was personal interaction with these people for years and years. So when we kneel down and talk to these people, each one of our wildlife officers will say this, whomever that is, on behalf of the TWRA, the great state of Tennessee, and grateful sportsmen, we present to you this flag for your honorable loved one's service and dedication to the protection of our natural resources. And I can promise you at the conclusion of that, most everyone in that family is crying at that point because they are thankful for a job that has no bounds. It has no limits. It is the most beautiful and honorable job we have. And our officers will bring that to a fitting close. We also assist other law enforcement officers. Very small law enforcement departments may know our officers in the county. If we have honor guard officers in that county, they may ask us to assist, which is hugely important. Here's a couple of our officers who are standing watch at a Metro Police line of duty death. So I've got numbers and numbers of these pictures from throughout the state. What an honor it is to be considered equals with these other law enforcement officers, because we are truly honored to help them in their time. So to bring it all to a close, each one of you have something on your desk there. It's called In Honor of Those Who Served. And this was an article that we had written some time back for our Wildlife Officer magazine. But I'm going to read you one section out of that. What does a game warden earn when he hangs up his gun belt? A plaque and a cake on retirement day? A few handshakes and a great job speech? Whether desired or not, free admission into an elite group of men and women who have survived the perils of game and fish enforcement is the payoff. While the salary and benefits are arguably sufficient throughout your years of service, the job comes with something most don't anticipate. A brotherhood and a sisterhood of wildlife law enforcement professionals who will stand by one another at all costs until the very end. This type of bond doesn't exist in many professions, and this is where our honor day-to-day basis. I tell each one of them they're honor guard in and out of the uniform. They truly are professionals, and they should represent us professionally in and out of the uniform. And that's what I'd expect of each one of them. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to talk. I'll talk all afternoon.
There's no substitute than presence with those families. And I appreciate everything y'all do in each one of those situations. So stand up. Colonel Darren Ryder, would you come up front, please, sir?
Can I say something?
Oh, sure.
Man,
Commissioner Cox.
I would like to correct something you said or give you my input. You said it was an honor for you guys to be considered as equals of those other officers. I think exactly the opposite. I think it's an honor for them to be considered your equal. You guys, well, I understand, but I would suspect that they call for you to assist them more than you have to call them to assist you. So I think it's exactly the opposite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't plan to provide any comments, but hard not to. So, and I know Matt mentioned an untimely death of an officer, and that gentleman happened to be he was a textbook. He was a game warden. And he happened to be underneath my supervision at the time of his death. So that was 2011. And then, just scrambling, figuring out how we going to honor this employee that's done so much for this agency. And then we made it through that event, just scrambling and putting together and piecing it together. But we come out really good. Then in the discussion with Matt, I said, we need something. And so you saw what that something he built, just an idea that he built. In certain circles, a lot of circles, they ask me, what's your most proudest accomplishment through work? There is no hesitation that program right there is the proudest moment. And then let me share you a text that happened an hour ago that was sent to Matt from another honor guard member who is an officer for us, but he also instructs at UT Knoxville law enforcement class. He said, a bit of good news you'll find interesting. So I'm instructing the wildlife LE class at UT this semester. One really good kid in the class comes up to me after a lecture one day and questions about the honor guard. He says he not only wants to work as a wildlife officer someday, but one of his major career goals is to be on the honor guard for TWRA. He elaborated how he's in the UT band and how impressed he is with the display and pageantry that he's seen the TWRA honor guard do. And he said, I thought you'd find that interesting. So, and Matt's not expecting this. So everybody familiar with the challenge coins, right? So I've got Colonel challenge coins, and this is only going to be the second one that's been earned. And I'm going to give it to Matt today. And just so you know, the first one I had to give to my wife, because after 36 years of me putting up with this agency, she's the first one who's got this challenge coin, and Matt he's earned this challenge coin. So it's my Colonel challenge coin to Matt Major.
You're a smart man, Colonel Ryder. Okay, before we move to biodiversity, we're going to take a quick break. So everybody return back 10:12, let's say 10:20. Is that enough time? Okay. 10:25. Thank you. All righty. Welcome back, everyone. Director Wilson. Now you start.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, it is a pleasure to be here today to talk to you all about the successes that we've seen in managing muskie in Tennessee. We have some incredible muskie fishing in the state, and we've been working with this species since the 50s and have made some great gains. We've seen some restoration of the species on the landscape where they're self-sustaining, and so we've had some big accomplishments in this area. Thank you. So the muskie, like a lot of fish, goes by different names. You'll see muskie with a Y, muskie with an IE. Sometimes it's muskies with an S thrown on that IE. Jack pike. And in Tennessee, particularly on the Cumberland Plateau, they've always been known as jackfish. They're native to the Cumberland and Tennessee river systems. There are 3 forms of this fish recognized in the country. A form that occurs in the Great Lakes area. There's a form that occurs in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and in Canada. And then there's an Ohio River Basin form, or a subspecies, that is our native fish. That Ohio River Basin form is our fish. This was a fish that was adapted to rivers in East Tennessee, rivers of the Cumberland Plateau, and rivers of the Highland Rim in the Cumberland River system. So these fish grow really large. They can get up to 50 inches. It's a fish that can be a trophy fish. We see these fish, they can get to 36 inches in about 4 to 5 years. The growth slows down after that. Fish in the low 40 range could be in that 10-year range of age. And then when you get to that size class, you could be dealing with a fish that's anywhere from 50 spawning runs to they prefer areas that have aquatic vegetation, woody debris, and clean gravel and sand. There are species that really needs clean habitat and good habitat. What do they eat? Well, muskie prefer soft rayed fishes. And when we talk about soft rayed fishes, I don't know if this is going to work. Barely. This dorsal fin of these fishes, you'll see, doesn't have the spines that a bass or a crappie will have. And we're talking about gizzard shad up here in the top, red horse over in the lower right corner, and suckers down in the left hand. And they really target these bigger species, these bigger items of these species. The people that fish for these things will fish with big lures, 10, 12, 13, 14-inch, 15-inch lures. And so these fish really key in on this. In the literature, it's pretty well documented that they prefer one big meal rather than a lot of small meals. And yeah, that's something about the muskie. So if you go back and you look in the state archives, you'll see photos from the 30s and 40s of people with muskie. It's a fish that people have pursued in Tennessee for a long time. If you look in some of the old Tennessee conservationist magazines, you'll see articles not only about our, and those articles are really valuable because they tell you a lot about where that fish occurred in the state. Up until the 20s, we had muskie were widely distributed in the Tennessee and Cumberland, and pretty good numbers. But around the 30s, we started seeing declines. Unregulated mining took a big toll on the muskie on the plateau. the unregulated harvest, these fish, you remember I mentioned spawning runs. Well, these fish will move into areas and congregate in big numbers and pretty easy to pick off. And that took a toll on them. And then in the 40s, as the Tennessee River, Cumberland River, the dam systems and reservoir systems began to be developed, you lost a lot of habitat and you had this permanent fragmentation that took place. So that by the 50s, we really had muskie in only a handful of streams in Tennessee. So in the 50s, seeing this decline and knowing it was a fish that we wanted to work with, at the time, the Tennessee Game and Fish Commission began stocking muskie. Now, a lot of their early stocking efforts involved fish from up north, some of those other forms. It also really focused on the newly formed reservoirs, this new habitat. And this was a thing in fisheries management in the 50s where you've got all these new waters, just brand new habitat to work with. And that's where the focus originally took place. So by the 70s and 80s, we realized, oh, we've got a different fish here. This is a unique fish to Tennessee. And at that point, we shifted more towards using our fish. And we started focusing on rivers and streams as stocking sites. But we also have reservoir sites that we maintain and keep. This is a picture of a batch of fish going out for stocking. The fish that we get to stock range from anywhere from 5 inches to 14 inches when they go in the water. And this upper shed here is the Cumberland. And of course, the Tennessee swings south down through the state, down in Alabama and back up into East Tennessee. And from the middle portion of the state to the eastern part was where we had muskie. And these icons represent the places that were currently managing this fish. This is not going to work very well. So I'm going to just point at this for you guys. Is that okay? So we've got fisheries in the Upper Caney Fork, the Obie in Dale Hollow, the Ocoee watershed, which is Parksville, the Emory River, the Big South Fork, the Clinch in Melton Hill Reservoir, and then in the upper right, we have fisheries in the French Broad watershed, the Nolichucky, French Broad, and Pigeon. Now, one of the neat things about the work that we've been able to do is that we've seen the Caney Fork fish, the Emory fish, and the Dale Hollow fish hold their own. We don't stock there anymore. It's a restoration success. They're producing great fishing and doing it on their own. The other sites, and what that tells us is that we've got potential to do this in all these sites because the habitat's improved, and it may be a matter of getting enough adult fish in there. You know, they live a long time to hit that tipping point to where you get them running on their own. The Parksville site down here is fairly new, and we're seeing some really good results out of it. We've had 2 stockings and seeing some good fish caught. But yeah, these are the places that we're managing the species right now and having really good success. We have great muskie fishing in Tennessee. People are coming from all over the country to experiencing the fishing here. You've got towns that have embraced it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You've got guides that are making a living guiding people here, and then just people coming to fish. This is the current state record. I always have to look at this because there's a lot of numbers. It's a 43-pound, 14-ounce, 51 3/8 inch monster caught on March 2nd, 2017 from Melton Hill Reservoir. And you know, we get reports of 50-inch fish pretty commonly, and it's pretty neat to see where the fishing has come. So how do we regulate muskie? We've got 2 regulations right now that we work with. We have a statewide regulation of 1 fish per day, 36-inch minimum length limit. And then we have a trophy regulation, a 1 fish per day, 50-inch minimum length limit. We have that trophy regulation in places that we've seen the growth potential for the fish. And we're also receiving high fishing pressure. And as well in that Caney Fork and Dale Hollow watershed, we've documented that they're holding their own and it's self-sustaining. We also put signs at all of our sites that inform the public about what the regulations are. We include information about how to successfully practice catch and release with these fish. Musky anglers are a group that really want to take care of their fish. They go to great lengths to practice successful catch and release. This is a sign that they provided us some time ago that's at a lot of our sites. And you can see, they tell you about the equipment, but they also go to great lengths to talk about how to handle these fish. And, they really value the resource. So how do we monitor these fish? A lot of these places, we are tracking the progress of the fish. And one of our most common tools is electrofishing equipment, like you see in the center photo. And we'll collect the muskie. We'll take standard weights, lengths, which will tell us about the size structure and somewhat about abundance of fish. And in some of our sites, we're using a technology called pit tags. And pit tags, PIT stands for Passive Integrated Transponder. You can insert these tags in the fish, as you see in the top right-hand corner with the syringe. And if you pick that fish up and scan it with the reader that's on the bottom right-hand corner, you can identify that individual. So with this information, we get idea about longevity or the age of the fish. We're starting to get an idea about the abundance and the number of fish that are out there. And we also get some insight into the movement of these fish. I like this photo. So we talk a lot about how managing fisheries is important to local communities, local economies, and this is no exception. The city of McMinnville, which has the Collins River running right through the middle of it, has really embraced the muskie fishing. They have branded themselves as home of the southern muskie. They've done this officially, and it's part of their branding. Each year in McMinnville, there's a tournament called the Hardly Strictly Muskie Tournament. It's a gathering of muskie on the fly enthusiasts that come from all over the U.S. and Canada every year in May to compete in a tournament. And speaking to that conservation ethic with this group, it's a tournament that doesn't involve a weigh-in. They fish in teams. They have a standard measuring format, and they take a photo with the measurement, and then points are accumulated based on the size of the fish that they catch. If you go to their website, they've got all kinds of information about and rules about how you've got to handle those fish. And so again, that conservation ethic with this group is really a cool thing to see. So as fisheries develop in an area and communities really embrace the resource, and there's often a heightened sense of stewardship that develops. McMinnville has an annual river cleanup, and hundreds of people come out to do a cleanup day on the river. We go out and help with it, and it's just a great time, a great opportunity to spend time with the public. Another aspect of this that I don't have in here that has come to mind since I put this together is we've got really good access in that area, in that upper Caney Fork area. And the relationship and our presence in the community has fostered these opportunities to have good access. The city has come to us with projects and helped us maintain some sites and develop some sites. So it's been a really beneficial thing for the community. So we've got great muskie fishing. Hopefully you've been given a good overview of the work that's been done, the time scale that it's taken place in. And, again, we've got great fishing, people coming here and enjoying it, and just got some really good resources out there. So that concludes my presentation. and I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I didn't realize they lived that long. 30 plus years?
Up to 30.
Up to 30. Wow. Anyone have any questions? Comments? Commissioner Granberry?
I was wondering that picture of the tanker truck, was that Director Wilson's original fishery truck when he was?
I saw him driving in that picture.
I think Bill appropriated the money.
Yeah, that's right.
Tough crowd. Wally, you're in rare form this month.
That was Tommy.
Oh, was that Tommy?
No, Mark, thank you for the thank you for your presentation. We talked briefly that our family has had a place at Rock Island for over 100 years, and you talk about the Collins, but the Caney, the Rocky, the Calf Killer, and Cane Creek, and all these areas are just loaded with muskie, and there's no telling. They're probably swimming under our dock, and we don't even know it. I hope my grandkids don't find out about it, because they probably wouldn't get back in the water. But Director Wilson and I had the opportunity to fish the Calf Killer a couple years ago, and the latter part of the season. But he had a pretty nice size come up on his bait, and he was astounded by the size of it because the water's so clear. But my son's best friend just last week caught a 48.5 inch muskie at the state park at Rock Island. So that's below the Great Falls Dam. So that's in what we all know as Center Hill. So
sure,
obviously Center Hill's another part of the migration of these fish, because the water, they just go over the dam and stuff. So it's pretty phenomenal how that whole area has embraced this muskie fishing.
It really is. It's exciting fishing.
Yeah, Bobby can speak to it. He had to lay down. He was, after he saw that big fish, it scared him to death.
I have caught one before. I don't know how many you've caught, but I've caught one.
Who said I hadn't caught one? What? Catching them in that tanker truck don't count.
Everybody's feisty today. I need to.
That's right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Thurman. I appreciate that.
I'm just trying to be on good offense is the best defense.
Oh, I know. I know. That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Talk. I'd like to call up Mr. Josh Campbell of Biodiversity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know I'd hit that deer. No, what? Thank you. Good morning. I do. So I'm gonna talk to you one. So Mark talked to you one that exhibits or exudes excitement in people. I'm gonna talk to one that probably doesn't exude as much excitement, and that is Hellbenders. I'm going to talk to you this morning about our restoration project with snot otters here in the state. So give you a little bit of information about Hellbenders and what that project's entailed during the last 10 years or so. So I kind of want to start off with some of the common myths associated with Hellbenders. A lot of people don't realize we have this species in the state, and it exudes a little bit of fear in people when they find out. One of the common ones is people believe they're poisonous or venomous, and that's simply not the case. They do have a nasty bite if you're able to catch one. They do have large mouths with teeth, and so they will break the skin, and it'll be a little bit painful. Go back. They don't slime lines. A lot of fishermen think with Hellbenders being present in some of the streams and creeks that they'll slime their fishing lines to purposely keep them from catching fish, and that's not the case. Hellbenders do have a lot of slime, as the name snot otter implies, but that mucus is for protection of the skin, not for disrupting fishermen's daily trips on the streams. But most importantly, they do not impact the fishery of the streams. They do feed primarily on crayfish, but they will eat fish that swim past the cover objects where Hellbenders reside. So it is Tennessee's largest salamander. They can get up to about 30 inches in length and exceed 3 pounds in weight. So it's a very large animal. So you can kind of, if you were to encounter one, you didn't know it was there, it kind of can exude some fear. They are long-lived salamanders. They can live up to 30 years in the wild. So it's very similar to muskie. They can live a long time, which is important because with a lot of amphibians, they have high reproductive outputs. So an animal that can live a long time can put a lot of animals out there for recruitment. They have flattened heads and bodies, and this is important for the cover rocks that they use in the streams and rivers. And then another characteristic is all the skin on the salamander's bodies. You can see this wrinkled skin along the sides. This is important for transfer of oxygen from the water to the hellbenders. They absorb a lot of the oxygen through their skin, not through the lungs they have. The lungs are used for buoyancy, not breathing. And another important fact is they're stay-at-home dads. So when the eggs are laid, the female goes into the nest that the male creates, lays the eggs, they're fertilized. She actually leaves. The males stay with the eggs for about 45 to 60 days, protect them from predators, and agitate the eggs with their tails to keep them clean and moving around. So their habitat preference is streams, flowing habitats of streams, creeks, and rivers that have large cover rocks. Slab rocks are preferable. And this is where the animal can get underneath and hide. These streams are typically cool, highly oxygenated, and fast flowing. The water temperature is pretty important because the colder the temperature, it allows for better oxygen exchange. So that's why this cold temperature is preferred, which kind of limits the number of streams throughout the state it can reside in. So when we kind of started this project around about 12 years ago, we wanted to understand where our hellbenders were, because at the time we had about 600 occurrences in our database, but most of those were 20 plus years old. So we partnered with several institutions in the state to go back to all these sites to see where hellbenders actually were and what population status were for each population. So the map on top is the occurrences pre-2000. So you can see we had a high number of occurrences through the state. And the map on the bottom represents the occurrences as we know them now for the state. So we lost a lot of populations in just 20 or 30 years for a lot of different reasons. But this was the main reason why we listed the species as state endangered in 2016, because we were losing populations. And so when we're doing our surveys, this is kind of what it looks like. You lift up these large rocks and you find a hellbender and you bring it up. And so our partners and our staff, when they get them out of the water, they take a lot of standard measurements, weight, length, sex, and age, use the pit tag equipment that Mark had mentioned, but they also take a swab of the skin to test for disease. They also take a tail clip. And we use the tail clip to assess the genetic diversity. The range of the eastern hellbender is widespread over much of the eastern U.S. But there's some differences in the genetic diversity, and so we wanted to have an understanding of that. You can see down in southeast Tennessee, there's 2 different clades or groupings based on genetic diversity that are different from hellbenders in western North Carolina and southwest Virginia. Now, all the circles that aren't colored in, those do clade differently based on genetic diversity, but we just didn't have high sample sizes because of the number of individuals remaining in the wild. But the hellbenders in upper East Tennessee tend to clade out differently from those in southeast Tennessee, as well as the animals in the Cumberland, Tennessee, and Duck River drainages. So what are those causes of the decline? Primarily it's habitat loss or degradation. A lot of those cover rocks are becoming embedded in these streams from sediment and siltation that enters the system. Some of it's water quality. You get that silt and sediment covers up eggs. They don't hatch out. And changes in water quality can also increase stress for the animals, which can result in increased predation. Water temperature does the same thing. As the water temperature increases, they got to come out from those cover objects and seek cooler temperatures. So that increases predation. I'm sure most of you are familiar with a new fad now, which is rock stacking. You can see in the upper left-hand corner of this picture where a group of people decided to remove these large cover objects and make this beautiful architectural design out of rocks. And you can see it removes all that cover, which can result in mortality of the animals. During our surveys, we also noted that some populations were lost due to a lack of connectivity out of those populations, and then disease increases. We've learned that disease can have a huge effect, as well as effect on the smaller animals as well. So during our surveys, we noted one critical component outside of habitat changes that was missing, and we only found one juvenile hellbender, and I think to date we found two, which is pretty instrumental as to why these animals are declining. It indicates a lack of age classes. And I'm sure you've heard several fisheries presentations. They always work to have multiple age classes within their populations. What we found were a lot of very large and old individuals in our populations, but we're not finding any juveniles, which indicates there's no recruitment. And part of this, one of the impacts leading to the lack of recruitment could be a lack of habitat. Juvenile hellbenders are thought to use the interstitial spaces of gravel and cobble. And so as those spaces fill in with sediment, there's no place for them to go. And so they end up getting predated by fish and things. The other thing is we learned through research conducted by UT is disease can have a great impact on juvenile hellbenders, and it leads to high mortality. So what have we done? So we started with the surveys, assessed with the genetics, and we then have partnered with the Nashville Zoo. We still have some populations that are remaining, like just down the road from here, Laurel Hill WMA. We have a nice population of older adults that are still trying to reproduce. And so with these efforts with the Nashville Zoo, they go out and they collect those eggs in the wild during breeding season, then bring them back to the zoo. And they rear those eggs for about 4 to 5 years. And then turn them loose. And actually last year in 2021 was the first time we turned loose captive reared hellbenders back into the wild. And we turned loose about 26 individuals back into the Little Buffalo on Laurel Hill. And this is what it looks like. And this is like a 5-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old hellbender being turned loose. And that's an artificial nest box that's been created to kind of augment some of the habitat that's been lost there. We've partnered with Tennessee State, and they're tracking these individuals over time to see if there's any differences between wild movements versus captive movements, and to see how they use this habitat. And so these efforts are continuing. In 2022, we'll turn loose about 35 individuals back into the Little Buffalo, both on Laurel Hill WMA and off the WMA as well. And the monitoring post-release will continue. But most importantly, over the last 12 months, there's been a new head starting program between the Chattanooga Zoo and the U.S. Forest Service, where they're going to do this same thing in East Tennessee to augment those populations that have been lost in East Tennessee. And then the Forest Service is beginning to place signs on some of the rivers and streams in the forest to kind of help educate the public. From time to time, these animals do get caught by fishermen. And so the one sign will actually indicate what to do if you catch a hellbender, who to contact, so we can collect that information. But then another signage that they're going to place is don't move the rocks. While this is important for hellbenders, it's also just important for other aquatic species as well, that we kind of leave that habitat alone and not disrupt it. And these are all the partners we've had involved in this project for the last 10 or 12 years. It's been a very successful project thus far. This group won a national award several years ago for these efforts. And hopefully these efforts continue in the future. Like I said, there are plans to turn loose animals this year. Have any questions?
Brief about your funding. Where does it come from?
So this is, some of it's private. The original project where we did surveys, it was a competitive state wildlife grant. I've also used some of our state wildlife grant funds as well to fund the project.
Are they putting any tags in these released hellbenders that have been raised in the zoo so that they can track them?
Yes, so they'll get both a pit tag, so they'll have an individual marking, but they'll also be fitted with a radio transmitter so they can track their movements for up to 2 years.
I had the privilege of being on Laurel Hill and looking at some of the release sites and some of the places where they're monitoring their success. Not all of them have been successful that have been raised in the zoo, but now, hey, that's an ongoing effort. So I think that's a very important aspect of what they're doing.
Great. Any more questions or comments? Thank you, Mark. It's very informative. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Josh, sorry. I'd like to call on Alan Pyburn, sir. The dive team. Thank you.
Thank y'all for letting me present today. Some of y'all already know me, and all I know to do about that is apologize. For those that don't know me, I'm Alan Pyburn, out of the Biodiversity Division. I'm the Region 1 Aquatic Habitat Biologist. I also serve as Chairman and Dive Safety Officer for TWRA's dive team, which some of y'all may not realize that we actually have a dive team. So today what I want to do is I just want to give you an idea of how the dive team was started and where it's evolved now over the years, and just give you an idea of some of the things that we do. The dive team was originally developed in 1988 during the height of the commercial mussling industry, and it served as a way to collect data on the commercial mussels and as well as to keep up with the mussel health. And it also served as a way to ID common mussel species that were very similar to threatened or endangered mussel species in order to put these common species on a no harvest list, thus ensuring that the endangered species weren't harvested during the commercial mussling. In the early 90s, some of the environmental services personnel began training with EPA during their EPA scientific diver program. And when they were going down, they were bringing back knowledge from EPA's training. And our dive team is actually based off of EPA's dive training and still is today. And they would bring back that knowledge and train the other TWRA officers at that time, or TWRA divers at that time, and on an annual basis. And this training at that time included search and recovery techniques, lift bag training, CPR, first aid, and oxygen administration. In 2011, the Scientific Diver Program was officially established, and to date, Tennessee is the only inland state that has an OSHA-compliant scientific diving program. So I think that's a big feather in our hat. The dive team is actually governed by a chairman. It's a dive safety board, and it consists of a chairman, 2 dive safety officers, an associate dive safety officer, 2 medical officers, 2 records and managers, records and equipment managers, and a law enforcement representative, as well as an administrative representative. TWRA's dive standards, we adopted the American Academy of Underwater Sciences. This is the gold standard in scientific diving, which is why we adopted these standards. These standards allow research dive teams to fall under an exemption of OSHA's commercial diving regulations. So if we're doing any type of scientific diving, we do not fall under OSHA, so we're exempt from any of their regulations. These standards also allow us to have reciprocity with other agencies in order for us to dive with them, as well as them to dive with us from time to time. And it's used throughout the United States as well as other countries. Our dive team, in order to maintain an active status as a dive team member, they're required to complete a minimum of 12 dives each year. These can be either proficiency dives or work dives. They have to attend the annual dive in service training. They have to maintain and pass a dive physical, report those quarterly, and they maintain all of their equipment and report that annually. All of our divers are trained in, and you can see the list up here and I'll go over it. They're trained and they possess the following certifications: open water, scientific diver, rescue diver, dry suit certification, full face mask certification, nitrox, surface air, hazmat awareness, which pertains to the handling of the scuba cylinders, advanced first aid, oxygen administration, CPR, and AED. And our divers practice this annually to stay proficient and to continue to be trained. This year, with the addition of 5 new divers last year and then 4 this year, our roster now stands at 19 divers total. Over the next 3 years, it is our intention to add a minimum of 2 per year in order to maintain around a 20 person team. Our intended training for 2022, we intend to send 3 of our divers down to the EPA scientific diver training. 2 of them will be training as scientific diver candidates, and 1 will be training as a dive master candidate. We intend to send 1 of our medical officers down to the Divers Alert Network medical instructor training, and then the majority of the team this year will continue the next phase of training that's required for our advanced underwater investigation certifications. Our team provides several services both within the agency and for other agencies. One of the services we provide, and you can see by the picture, water control structures on wildlife management areas. From time to time, we're requested to assist with the maintenance of these structures by clearing debris, retrieving equipment, or drop logs that may have been lost during whatever times, and just general inspection of these. And by inspecting these, it allows the WMAs to continue to run efficiently. And without the availability of divers, a lot of times this is, it couldn't be done otherwise. We also do biological surveys and habitat assessment. Some of the biological surveys that we conduct are, again, commercial musseling data, threatened and endangered mussel species data collection and collection for propagation, crayfish data, fish and darter data that is found in Tennessee. This is the orange-footed pimpleback. They closely resemble 2 common species in Tennessee, which is pimpleback and the purple wartyback. So those 2 species were put on a no-harvest list for the simple fact of this. So by putting those on the no-harvest list, it ensured that our orange-foot pimplebacks wouldn't be harvested and used for the commercial mussling industry. Some of the habitat assessment that we do, and it could include just the assessment of benthics, and especially on certain projects that are being done, and just get an idea of how everything is going and how the progress is being made over time. And in certain cases, the team will be called to just assess the benthic and see what maybe the problem is or what the cause of the problems there may be. We also do several outreach programs. Become an Outdoor Woman workshop every year. The Toys, Tennessee Outdoor Youth Summit every year. We'll do an introduction to scuba for them, and they really seem to love that class. And we also do for schools, any organizations, anything like that would request us to just come do presentations. We do those as well. We also assist in investigation and recovery, both for the other agencies that would request us. The top left photo is items that were recovered from a fatal boating accident on Percy Priest back in 2009. We were able to recover the GPS unit, the mount, the bow light, which were very important in the investigation. We were also able to recover some personal items and return those to the family, hopefully as some type of closure. So we got those to them. The top right is a photo of us recovering one of our fisheries boat that actually sank. We recovered in January of 2021. It sank a little while earlier than that, but we were able to recover this boat as well as almost every single item that went down with the boat itself. So everything that especially important things, we were able to recover the entire thing. The bottom is the team recovering a stolen BMW out on Dale Hollow. It had been stolen out of Ohio 2 years prior to us doing this recovery. One of my and the teams, but one of my more proud moments, back in 2010, we were requested by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to attempt to recover weapons that were involved in a robbery homicide. The gentleman that turned against the other ones that were involved told us, yes, that they were thrown off a bridge into the Clinch River, and they asked us to come try to recover that. The TBI investigator had no faith whatsoever that they'd ever been recovered. They'd been in the water for 2 years. So when we got on site, we actually had the gentleman that was in jail come and show us where and how he throwed. And within 30 minutes, we were able to recover an SKS rifle, which you see at the top. And within an hour, we were able to recover a 40 caliber handgun. And these two pieces of evidence were the nail in the coffin to convict the individuals that were involved. So real proud about that. We also assist EPA each year. I kind of talked about it earlier. We go down and we actually instruct their scientific divers as well as their dive masters. And according to how many EPA divers that can fill the slots, they generally hold at least 2 spots for us for scientific divers and 1 spot for us for dive masters, just for the simple fact that we do come down and we do actually help instruct their divers. So again, it all depends on the EPA diver slots that are filled by EPA divers. So I know it's a short team. It's such a big benefit within the agency. I've talked to the directors before. Besides IT, I don't know that there's not a division that in some shape, form, or fashion, we weren't able to help to do something. So very, very big benefit. The goal of the team is to just continue to get better and continue to train and hopefully continue to be that benefit, both for TWRA and other agencies. With that, do we have any questions? Oh.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions or comments?
That's just how good I am.
That's right. We knew that. I had a quick question on the scientific when they are certified. What's the depth of that? I mean, you have different certifications, but I was thinking your recovery in Percy Priest. I mean,
most of our dives that we do, especially work dives, it's going to be 35 feet or less. Open water, you're certified to 60 feet. Once you get your advanced certification or anything like that, you can be certified deeper than that. But the majority of our team is just open water. We don't require advanced open water. And like I say, the majority of our dives are 35 feet or less. We have dove some of the old dredge sites, the gravel dredge sites, and we've gotten down 80, 85 feet on those. But the majority of our stuff is fairly shallow.
all right, great. Thank you. Any more comments? Well, that's it. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate
Thank
it.
y'all so much again.
Days like today were once again reminded how incredible this agency is. This is good stuff. Thank you so much. All right. Believe we have come to the end of our meeting this morning. I'd like to first, before we move to adjournment, to thank our IT team and our camera team and Lee Wilmot, and thank y'all we couldn't do it without you. I could probably get the speakers plugged in and I could get the microphone. That's about it. So thank y'all for being here, always following us around. Director Wilson, you have any comments?
Just a reminder of the next meeting is going to be April 28th and 29th.
Correct, in Jackson, Tennessee?
Yep.
Mhm. That's right. Okay. Yes, we are. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. At this point, after adjournment, we'll move for executive session and have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all.